Alright, and welcome back. Today we're going to do a little mini lesson on solving linear inequalities. I wrote a few notes up here that you should jot down. So the first thing is that a less than or greater than symbol gets open circles when you graph. Number 2, less than or equal to or greater than or equal to symbols get closed circles when you graph. Number 3, if you divide or multiply by a negative, you must reverse the symbol. And the symbol I'm talking about or referring to is the inequality symbol. And for number 4, your final answer should always have the variable on the left hand side. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in, take a look at number 1 and see how these rules apply to what we're doing. So for number 1, I'm going to rewrite it. It says 15 plus 4v greater than 8v plus 7. Okay, now when I solve, I like to move everything to the left hand side. So I'm gonna show that I'm moving all of my variables to the left hand side, and I want to move my constant terms, all the numbers, to the right hand side. So variable on the left, everything else on the right. First thing I'm gonna do, because of that, I'm going to subtract 8v from both sides. When I do that, this becomes 15, not plus, but the positive 4v and the negative 8v combine to make negative 4v greater than 7. Then I want to subtract 15 from both sides. Subtract 15 from both sides. This becomes negative 4v greater than negative 8. Alright, and my last step is to divide both sides by negative 4. So when I do that, because in rule number 3 says if you divide or multiply, in this case we're dividing, so if you divide by a negative, you must reverse the symbol. So my inequality symbol has to turn around, and the v stays on this side, and the negative divided by a negative is a positive. So v is less than positive 2. Okay, v is less than positive 2. Now when I graph it, to graph my solution, put 0 here, negative 1, negative 2, I have positive 1, positive 2, positive 3, and I put an open circle on 2 because I don't have the equal to line, it's open, which means 2 is not included. And then I do my shading. I shade. Well, if we want to know which way to shade, if I zoom in here and I put an arrow, if I draw a line like that, basically it's telling me to shade to the left. So I'm just gonna, let's increase that. I'm gonna shade everything to the left, including the arrow. Okay, and that's how you do the shading. Now let's take a look at number 1a, example 1a, and talk about what happens if I didn't want to move my variable to the left hand side. Let's say, because some people actually like to move the smaller or the lesser variable to the greater variable. So I'm going to rewrite it. 15 plus 4v greater than 8v plus 7. Now let's say if you move the variable to the left instead of the right instead of the left, so we subtracted 4v from both sides, right? That would give us 15 is greater than 4v plus 7, and then we subtracted 7 from both sides, and that would give us 8 is greater than 4v, and then we divide everything by positive 4. And that would give us positive 2 is greater than v. Now, the last note here up at the top, rule number 4, note number 4 says final answer should always have the variable on the left hand side. Now, if you do end up solving this, nothing we did was incorrect, but our final answer has to have the v over here and a 2 over here. Now, what you need to pay attention to is right here. How is it open? Right now it's open towards, the mouth is open towards the 2. So when we reverse it, it still has to be, when we rewrite it and put the variable on the left and the 2 on the right, the mouth still has to be open towards the 2 no matter what. Okay, and then we would still end up with the final answer that we got when we did it up here for example 1. Okay, so just showing that you still need to, even when you rewrite it, to put the variable on the left, everything has to change, and technically it's not changing, but it's really staying the same. The mouth of the symbol has to still be open towards the same thing it was open towards before you changed it. Okay, so let's take a look at this last example, number 2. We'll go ahead and rewrite this one. This is going to be -6 plus 4x less than or equal to 2 times the group of -8 plus 3x. And the first thing, we want to go ahead and split our equation. And then I have to distribute. So I have to 2 times -8 and 2 times +3. So on the left, that's going to be -6 plus 4x less than or equal to 2. No, excuse me, less than or equal to -16 minus 6x. Right, because we went ahead and distributed, and that's not -6x, that's +6x. Apologize about that. So one more time, if we distribute properly, that would be -16 plus 6x. Okay, because 2 times +3 is +6, and 2 times -8 is -16. Now, once again, we want to go ahead and move our variables to the left. So -6x minus 6x. So that's going to give us -6 minus 2x less than or equal to -16. Then we want to add 6 to both sides. When we do that, that's going to become -2x less than or equal to -10. Right? Because a -16 and a +6 combine to make -10. And now, once again, we're dividing. And because we're dividing by a negative, the symbol has to be reversed. And this is going to be x over here, and the negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we get x is greater than or equal to +5. And now we want to go ahead and graph it real quick. And we can put 0 here, -1 there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. Now, we're going to go to 5 and put a closed circle because it has the equal to symbol part of it, that has the line underneath. And then if we zoom in here, this tells us to shade to the right. So we're going to do our shading this time to the right, and we're going to include the arrow in that as well. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you solve and graph linear inequalities.